November 2010, I start writing as a volunteer for Unwinnable. I was just trying to learn as much as I can. I didn't know how this would change things for me. It was my introduction to Twitter. They required their writers to have a Twitter address that they could promote at the bottom of each article. And this is consequently why my Twitter handle is my full name. Whereas a lot of people would use, like, you would expect me to have @Bog Otter, right, to fit everything else now. This was before I had, like, Bog Otter, right? I didn't, I had a couple of YouTube videos on Red Rhino Games at this time, just for fun, just for me, goofing around. But so that's why, as a writer, you want your full name to be out there on Twitter as much as you can. So that's why my handle is that way. And I also, like I said, I was playing around on Red Rhino Games, which was my YouTube channel at the time, just doing like Let's Plays, no camera, just crappy microphone, crappy video recording. And I showed the guy running Unwinnable, like, hey, I've done some video stuff. Would you want any video content where I just like throw up the camera and like play a game, like an MMO? As the MMO writer, what if I show them some gameplay? And he was like, yeah, why don't we try it? And so I did a series. I only did a couple videos called Gaming in the Raw, where I played the video game and commented on it, no camera. It was inspired by the Project Lore stuff that I used to watch. And I did Rift Beta, I think the Rift Beta, and I did a game called Crimecraft, which they actually asked me to do specifically. And I like wrote articles about it and also did the video work. But this is where, Red Rhino Games started. This was my first foray into YouTube. Red Rhino Games came from the fact that one of my son's favorite color was red. My other son's favorite favorite animal was a rhino at the time. And so I just made Red Rhino Games. And this YouTube channel is still there. You can see some of my oldest and cringiest stuff. Okay, so that was my first time doing video work. And not work, volunteer video stuff. And I instantly knew that I far preferred the video format over writing. I was a decent writer. And over time, I got better and better. But I never felt like a writer. It was always difficult. Like when I had to sit down and I knew I had an article, I would labor and sweat over it. And through the years meeting lots of other writers, I realized that this was not the norm. For people who made writing their everyday job, they would sit down and they would bang out article after article after article every day. And to me, it was, I labored and labored and labored over it. I struggled to sit down. I struggled after every sentence or paragraph to continue, and only very rarely did I get into that writer flow that actually allowed me to produce content quickly. So I kind of started to get the sense that the video format was where I wanted to head to, more than the writing. That's all what happened with Unwinnable. And again, like I said, I started going down this path not knowing where it was going to lead. Never really quite felt like Unwinnable was going to be my end goal or my end stop, especially because it was a volunteer-only kind of thing. However, it happened to be very instrumental in all of the next steps. It sounds like ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but it's possible. It's really possible. When it comes down to writing, I don't know. I may have ADHD. I'm not sure. But anyway, it was difficult for me to write. This volunteer work that I did at Unwinnable, and I think why this is important in my career is because, again, like I wasn't getting paid. I'm spending tons and tons of my time working on my butt off on these articles, and it was like working in the game, like I was doing stuff for the game industry, but like, how is this really helping me? That was kind of things that I would ask myself. Like I would be like, am I wasting my time? And you guys might have, things that, maybe you started doing something and you're not getting paid for it, and you're working and it's maybe not exactly what you want to do, but it's kind of like close to what you want to do. And you might ask yourself, like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep going? And I've asked Widget this constantly over the years, just like why would I do that? Why would I spend time doing this? Like, what is it doing for me? And sometimes you just don't know what it's doing for you. And sometimes it doesn't do anything for you. And sometimes it happens like what I'm about to tell you. So a couple things. Number one, the guy running Unwinnable eventually introduced me to a guy who worked for Complex.com. and they were looking for a new video game news writer at complex.com. And he introduced me to him through email. I reached out to him, and I actually showed him a bunch of the samples of articles I did at Project Lore and Unwinnable, and I got the job at Complex. Now I'll talk about Complex in a minute, but the other thing that he did was the crew of Unwinnable went up to PAX East. And I had never heard of PAX East. I never knew about this convention at all. And I went along with them. And both of those things really had a big impact on, my career. So again, the whole Unwinnable thing, no idea what it was doing for me, spending a lot of time volunteering. But ultimately it led to two things that really had a major impact in this whole career. Oh yeah, Widget and I have that conversation constantly. I would always reach out to her and see am I wasting my time with Unwinnable? What am I doing? And Widget was here the whole time with me. I would always reach out to her almost on a daily basis, and she would try to push me to do more, and and I would struggle with my own procrastination and my laziness, and I didn't need to be doing any of this at this time. I was a stay-at-home dad. I didn't need to do any of this. Okay, so let's talk. Complex.com. I got the job at Complex. This is my first paid writing gig. And what is really weird is I've had many different writing gigs, but my very first one was my highest paying one. And that's not saying it was a lot. I was getting, I think I got $1,000 a month. And that is still to date my highest paying writing job. Complex is a website kind of like Maxim, kind of like a men's online magazine. There's like a sports section, and there's like a cars section, and there's like a women's section, and then they had a video game section as well. And I was a news writer. My job was to write 3 articles a day. I had to write 3 articles every day, and it was basically my job was to scour the internet for news in the gaming industry and make a small tiny article about it, and then link to whatever it was. So it'd be like, Diablo 3 has a new trailer coming out, and it's spooky and it's evil and blah 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 blah, and make it interesting in just a couple of sentences, and then post the video. Or it was basically searching other people's content and linking to it. It was a crappy job. Not only that, they wanted clickbait titles, specifically asked to make clickbait titles, and they only wanted information about, it was trashy. It was a trashy site. They only wanted information about sex, games involving sex, games involving sports, games involving shooters. It was like the 3 S's: sex, sports, and shooters. And you guys know me, this is so not me. They wanted nothing to do with like RPGs, World of Warcraft, no MMOs, no. This is my first job. I wrote I wrote close to 1,000 articles in a year. I did the job for a full year. They're still there. I don't think you can click on them anymore, but you can see the titles. Yeah, not a lot of Ottery content. So I don't think the articles are still there if you click on them, but you can see the titles and like how many I did. So 3 articles every day I had to do. Three a day. Yeah, it was all headline, no substance. Yep. And it was just basically pump it out as much as you can. And hey, you know what? I had a part-time work from home job now that I could do while still doing my fatherly duties. So I did it. And I was doing some articles for Unwinnable at the same time, which was more like I was more passionate about. What this was good for, however, is I learned, my boss at the time was actually a really cool guy. He taught me a lot about the publishers and the game dev studios and who made what games. And he got me he sent me a whole bunch of websites to kind of get the information and the news from. So now I was reading articles from all different websites. Like I had heard of Massively before because I was into MMOs, but this was like Destructoid and Game Informer and, IGN and, Eurogamer. Like I was looking at all these sites every day, plus getting all, some behind the scenes, mass mailing emails and stuff like that. I was put on all these mailing lists and stuff like that, and it really like helped me learn the industry. It helped me learn, like, you know, who these big players were, who were the game devs, where these game devs were located. This is probably where I started to realize, like, wow, okay, most of the game devs in the United States are like California, you know, Washington State, Texas. You know, that's where most of them were. I started to understand those kind of things. So, crappy job, really didn't fit my personality, but I started to learn those things. And it was funny too, because I constantly struggled with my boss. I was like, can I one of my articles today be about World of Warcraft? Because there's this big expansion they just announced, there's this trailer, can I make one of the articles about it? And he would say no a lot, and every once in a while, he would tell me okay, and go ahead and do it. And like, there was like 2 or 3 times where I, you know, convinced him to let me do it. And each time I did it, he would send me a graph of the metrics. Like, here's how your articles normally perform, and the bars would be up here. It's like, here's your World of Warcraft article, and it would be like a tiny little bar. Every time I did it, my article would pan. It was not the audience for that. So I could never write like about what I really wanted to write about, which sucked. After about a year of doing it, I was trying to psych myself up for asking them for a pay raise, you know. Here I came from like corporate management America, where asking for a pay raise was something that you could do, and, you know, was used to my employees doing it to me and different things like that. I was trying to get up the courage to actually go through this. And right before I did it, I got a call from my boss, or an email from my boss, saying that they had to slash my pay and they needed me to do 4 articles a day. So I quit. As soon as they did that, I quit. I was like, here I was going to try to get more money out of you to keep going, and you're slashing my pay and giving me more work, and it really wasn't my thing. It didn't fit my personality at all. So I had learned what I felt like I could learn from it, and I quit. So I quit after that. Sounds like a forced quit? Yeah. Yep. What year is this now? This is 2010. 2010. Okay, so the other awesome thing that came out of Unwinnable is, like I said, they introduced me to PAX East. I had no idea what PAX East was. They were all going to go up there, and so I said, sure. Me and my friend Rex took a drive, and we went up to Boston, and that was my first PAX East I ever went to. It taught me that I loved conventions, but it also taught me that I had no idea what to do at them. We literally were, like, clueless. We stood around, walking around the showroom floor, like, not knowing where to go, and it felt like everybody else there knew where to go and what to do and what to see, and we had no idea. And I don't even think I went. Oh no, I went to one panel. Yeah, there was one panel that I went to, which is very key. But and I still kind of feel that way a little bit at the conventions. It's so overwhelming, and there's so much to see, and it feels like everybody else knows where to go except you. But yeah, this is my first convention experience. I was like a deer in headlights. But the one big life-changing thing that happened there is I went to a panel, because I was the MMO. I had to write an article, because I actually went as I had a press badge for working at Unwinnable, or volunteering at Unwinnable. So I had my press badge. I had to write at least one article based on PAX East. So I went to a panel for Guild Wars 2, and I wanted to see what this MMO was all about. And this was before launch. This is when they were revealing the Thief, I believe, for the first time. And Colin Johansson was there, and a lot of the other devs were at the panel. And I sat there with a notebook, and I took notes. And I actually cut my finger right before the panel started, and it was bleeding a lot. And I went to the back of the notebook, and I wiped my blood off as best I could on the paper in the back of the notebook. And I still have the notebook with the Guild Wars 2 notes with the blood smear in the back. It's like I can't tear that page out and throw it away anymore because it's too nostalgic. Were you on the panel? You were on that panel, Muggletart? Oh my god. See, we're in the same room. We didn't even know it. I think this was 2011. Yeah, 2011 PAX East. And I remember sitting there. Now, big World of Warcraft player, right? And at this point, it was kind of near the end of my run with World of Warcraft. Was kind of getting tired of it a little bit, but also felt like a commitment because I was running everything, and my friends and family members were all a part of it and stuff like that. I remember feeling like I had to keep doing it. But I remember sitting there and hearing all about Guild Wars 2 and going, oh my god, they're literally taking everything that World of Warcraft has done to the genre. Like, because a lot of people tried to emulate World of Warcraft, right? Because it was so successful. They're taking all of these things that World of Warcraft does and changing it, right? And they're making it different. Not different just to be different, but like improving upon it. Like, oh my god, you don't have to be a part in a party to like share, to get your share of experience. Like, there's no tagging of a mob, you know? There's no quest hubs. Things just happen around you, like the events, the dynamic event system. And like, I just started, like, you know, and you guys all know what Guild Wars 2 is about, but I was floored by it. I was like, whoa, this is gonna be so amazing. And I was just writing notes furiously. I was so inspired by this. I was so inspired by that panel. I went home, I wrote my article for Unwinnable about Guild Wars 2 and how it's like gonna change, you know, the MMO industry. And then I started making Tyria Talk videos. That right away, as soon as I came home from that was my first Tyria Talk video. I think I did it on dynamic events. I was inspired, the whole style of the Tyria Talk videos came from me watching the Weekly Marmot, which was World of Warcraft talking head video where he had a topic each week. It was done by a guy named Lore that you guys might know, who eventually he actually now works for Blizzard. This article, or these videos, the Weekly Marmot, were posted on a website called TankSpot, and eventually TankSpot our Weekly Marmot was moved to Zam.com, and actually became like a job kind of thing. And this will have some impact later on. But I was inspired by his Lore's videos, the Weekly Marmot, and I decided to do my own version of that on Guild Wars. Yes, Josh Allen, aka Lore. Yep. I come home immediately. I was so passionate about. I'm still playing World of Warcraft, but I was so passionate about Guild Wars 2 based on that one panel. I just soaked up all the information. I watched all these videos, went to every website I could, trying to learn about Guild Wars 2. Started making Tyria Talk videos, and I started to grow a tiny little audience. Maybe I had 100 subs or something like that over there at this time. Every video I'd put out, I might get, 20 views on, 50 views on, something like that. Very, very low, but, I'm just starting out. I decided to stop writing for Unwinnable, which was purely volunteer at this point, and I wanted to focus on my job at Complex, which was still going on. I had to write 3 articles a day before I felt like I had to wake up, write 3 articles a day for my job, and then any free time left over I could spend on making YouTube content and stuff like that. Doing the Tyria Talk videos started introducing me to a lot of folks who were in the Guild Wars community. I watched a lot of Wooden Potatoes videos at that time. I watched a lot of the Guild Wars 1 stuff he was doing so that I can kind of learn about the lore and the story behind Guild Wars 2, because I wanted to really get involved in this community. So I used Wooden Potatoes videos as like homework. But folks like Matt Visual and a bunch of others that actually no longer make YouTube content that I'm aware of, but there was like a core of like 4 or 5 people that were doing Guild Wars news type stuff. We started collaborating together and talking together all the time. And Matt Visual, actually, he started before I did. He had a bigger channel than I did, but he wanted to collaborate. He wanted to do videos together, and we would like email each other and message each other. And he was really helpful, and I tried to be helpful back. But he was much more familiar with the ins and outs of YouTube at the time, so that really helped out a lot. I convinced myself to change my YouTube channel. I had now done Tyria Talk, probably like, 10 episodes of Tyria Talk on the Red Rhino Games channel. And I decided, you know what, that's not the branding I want. If I'm going to do this seriously and try to make something out of this, I need to brand myself. My corporate background kind of coming in a little bit here. So I said, you know what, the handle I use for everything is Bog Otter. And that dates back to when I was a kid, younger. I would swim in a lagoon with a bunch of my friends, like black murky water. It kind of looked like a swamp. And we would fight on rafts and with pool noodles and stuff like that. And we all came up with names for each other that were swamp-themed. Crocodile Rock, the Froghemoth, the Incredible Bulk, who was one of my friends. And then I was the Bog Otter, this mischievous, little annoying, like, water rat. So I said, maybe I'll do an otter-themed stuff. I love otters. I'll make my Bog Otter channel. And it was like the end of the world to me. Because here I had clawed my way to like a couple of hundred subs, maybe like 200, 300, 400 subs, maybe on Red Rhino Games. This was months of doing these videos. And I'm like, oh, I got to start all over. So there's still a video on Red Rhino Games where I pleaded with everybody to go to the new channel. And I thought it was the end of the world. I really did. I'm like, I'm starting completely over. But I figured it was better to do it then than to want to change it later. Turned out, I actually got to 500 subs fairly quickly on the new channel. And I applied to get monetization turned on YouTube. And I finally got that approved. Nowadays, you can create a channel and get like monetization turned on like right away. They don't care. But back then, I had to apply for it and get it. And I thought as soon as I got it, I'm like, that's it. Like, I've made it. I made it. Like, I did it. I got monetization. I can run commercials on my videos. I'm going to get like 30 views on this next video I'm putting out. And I've made it. And then I quickly realized that YouTube won't even pay you. They won't even cut you your first ad revenue check until you make $100 in ad revenue. This probably took me a year to get my first check after I got monetization turned on. To make that first $100, it took me like a year. It was crazy. But I was so happy. I thought I had made it. And I remember looking at like Matt Visual and being like, oh my god, he's got 2,000 subscribers and I've got 500. I'm like, if I get to where Matt is, I'm golden. I legit thought this. My perception was so off base. And that continued to like change, right? As I grew, like I finally hit 1,000 subs and I realized, oh man, I'm still not making any money with this. Well, it must be like 5,000, if I have 10,000 subs on the channel, then I've made it. Like I kept doing that. I kept raising it and thinking in my head, all right, I just have to get to the next like total. And I was so off base. Why was that so off base? Bronlock, what? Thinking that I would made it at 5? Because YouTube, making money on YouTube is so super difficult. And I just had a false sense. I had a false sense of what hitting those subscriber marks would mean in terms of making any kind of money. I thought there were, like, I looked at every aspect of, like, I thought, oh man, the people writing articles for Destructoid or Massively or Zam, or like, I felt like all those folks made enough money to like support themselves, like just on that. And I felt like, you know, YouTubers that had 10,000 subscribers, you know, which was like something I never thought I would get, 10,000 subscribers. I thought, oh my god, they must be making, you know, enough money to support themselves. I thought everybody made enough money to support themselves but me. I just thought it was like a super hard thing to get in, like all these gaming jobs. I thought it was super hard to get into, but once you get in, you've made it. And I was so off base. And like I keep learning that as I continue. You gotta say it's really interesting hearing, Bjorn says, it's interesting hearing your experience and how it was different than mine. I've known what I wanted to do since I was 10 years old and I went for it. That's awesome. That is really awesome. I wish I was always sure of what I wanted. Or I would say I knew what I wanted, but I just didn't think it was possible for so long. Remember, gang, that what I'm telling you about right now, and this is a key part of me telling you all these stories, this is 2010, so I am 36 years old at this time. So I'm going through this, like, journey of following dreams and trying to figure this all out at 36. So it's never too late to take steps. And sure, you might have like a full-time job and, you know, and you might, you know, feel like you're stuck in it, but you can always take steps in your downtime, you know, and just, even if it never turns into like a full-time career or anything, you can, you know, don't block yourself from taking steps towards something that you really want. Like most of our obstacles are obstacles that we self-put in our own minds. Isn't it like $1 per 2,000 views on YouTube or something? There's a statistic. It depends, Nublar. It's not just that. It's not like a flat thing like that. Because the ads change all the time. Some ads that they buy pay more. It depends if they click the ad versus just watch the ad. If they skip the ad, that's less. You know, there's different types of ads. So it's not purely like that. But yeah, it's something in the realm of that. Yeah. Yeah, if you get like a video, like one of my videos would, oh my god, I got 1,000 views on that video. You know, it might translate to 50 cents to $1 or something like that. So it's so hard. You've got to be putting out a video or 2 videos every day that get like 100,000 views to really make a decent amount of money on YouTube. There is an element of luck with some of this, Tito, but you know what? You can also make your own luck. Like I said, a lot of this kicked off from a random conversation I had at one of Widget's parties, and it was lucky that the guy that I was talking to actually knew somebody that wrote gaming articles, so there was some luck there. But I also talked about it all the time. You know, I talked about it with friends and acquaintances and different things about what I wanted to do. Because that question came up constantly. It was like, oh, Bog, you know, sorry you got laid off last year. You're like, what are you doing these days? And I would be like, well, I'm, stay-at-home dad, but I also really want to do something with this. So it's like you kind of create your own luck by putting yourself out there, right? Nothing's going to happen to you unless you put yourself out there. You can't just sit around waiting for a big opportunity or your dream opportunity to land in your lap. You have to do something to get it.